Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Katrina Forrest, and I am the Executive Director of CityHealth. Today, we are incredibly excited to share with you our 2024 medals and engage in a dynamic conversation with our government affairs experts and partners on trends we noticed this year and what to expect next year. But before we get to that, I'd like to share a bit about who we are and provide an overview of this year's medal ratings. CityHealth was founded with two basic ideas in mind. First, that policy is one of our most powerful tools for transformational change. And second, that all people deserve the opportunity to live their healthiest possible lives. From this foundation, CityHealth was born. We are a partnership between the de Beaumont Foundation and Kaiser Permanente, and our goal is to provide local leaders with tried and tested policy solutions that can increase access to healthy choices and create opportunities for everyone to thrive. Through our work, we partner with the 75 largest cities across the country to adopt evidence-based health-promoting policies. As you can see, our footprint is vast, encompassing 32 states and the District of Columbia. These 75 cities represent both geographic and political diversity. Even if your city is not on this list, please know that we provide a wealth of information, research, best practices, and other tools for free on our website, cityhealth.org. Now, we work with city leaders and policymakers to adopt this package of 12 policy solutions that span the social determinants of health and work to address the root causes of poor health. These policies focus exclusively on upstream, prevention-oriented interventions and provide city leaders with a menu of options that are centered on health equity and address critical health disparities in our communities. As you might imagine with the 12 policy package, we cannot do this work alone. For every single policy that is in CityHealth's package, we partner with these incredible organizations to provide technical assistance, subject matter expertise, and assessment support. Our partners are amazing, and if you represent a city that is within our footprint, we are happy to connect you to these organizations to answer any questions that you might have and to help you adopt strong, equitable policies. Now, CityHealth's package relies on the tiering of our policy criteria, where we've identified bronze, silver, and gold medal ratings to reflect the strength of the policies that we assess. Using the medal algorithm that you see here on the screen, cities have the flexibility to prioritize policies based on their unique needs and local context. Cities do not need to earn medals in all 12 policies to receive an overall CityHealth medal. Instead, to earn an overall gold, cities must adopt 5 or more gold medal policies across the 12. To earn silver, cities must earn 5 or more gold or silver medals across the 12 policies. And to earn an overall bronze, cities must earn 5 or more gold, silver, or bronze medals across our package. Cities that do not earn at least 5 medals across the 12 policy package are not awarded an overall medal. So now for the moment that we've all been waiting for. How did cities actually perform this year? We are incredibly proud of the progress that we've seen in cities to prioritize and adopt health-promoting policies. This year, 63% of America's largest cities earned an overall CityHealth medal, and that's 47 of the 75 cities. In terms of impact, that means that 43.6 million people now live in a city with an overall CityHealth medal. And here you will see our medal recipients. First of all, I just want to say a huge congratulations to all of our medal-earning cities. We are immensely proud to partner with you and commend your incredibly hard work. This year, we had 7 overall gold medal cities, 22 overall silver medal cities, and 18 overall bronze medal cities. We also want to shout out and applaud our new medal-earning cities, including 8 brand new silver medal cities. Those are Albuquerque, Aurora, Baltimore, Lincoln, Long Beach, Sacramento, San Diego, and Santa Ana. Additionally, we added one new overall bronze medal city, and that city is Omaha. Congratulations once again to these local leaders. They now join an elite club of cities that have proven exactly what is possible when health is prioritized. Now, as you'll hear from our esteemed panelists in just a bit, we saw a lot of progress this year, and 3 policies in particular saw substantial growth and momentum: high-quality accessible pre-K, green space, and affordable housing trusts. We also saw considerable movement in complete streets. The chart that you see here captures the full breakdown of our medal ratings, which you can access in our report available at cityhealth.org. Cities across the country faced numerous challenges this year, but through tireless efforts, dedication, and will, we have seen great progress, and we know local leads the way. Congratulations again to our medal recipients. From this year's report, we had 3 major takeaways, and the first I just mentioned is the incredible progress that we saw. 54 of the 75 cities earned medals in green space, and 73 of the 75 cities earned medals in pre-K. Second, we saw a groundswell of local action to put power back in the hands of the people, with local advocates across the country utilizing the ballot and referenda process to drive policy change. This was a highly effective tactic in policy areas like affordable housing trusts and earned sick leave. Finally, we feel really good about the emerging opportunities next year, and you'll hear more from our panelists on that. Housing stability remains a key area for growth in 2025 to address rising eviction rates and the expiration of COVID-era protections. CityHealth's policy package includes 3 housing policies, and we want you to know that we are here to help. Once again, just a major congratulations to all of our medal earners. It is an enormous honor to partner with you, and we are grateful for your commitment to health. To learn more about this year's annual report, please visit us online once again at cityhealth.org, where you can find the complete results, you can see our methodology, and access more of our resources. And now, without further ado, I'm going to pass the baton to my colleague, Akeem Anderson, to introduce himself, as well as our guest speakers.
Thank you, Katrina. I'm Akeem Anderson, the Government Affairs Director here at CityHealth. I will help moderate this panel of some of our more esteemed GR professionals, people who work with us in the 75 largest cities across the country. We have the Q&A section open, so feel free to drop any questions that you have there. I'll also try to leave a little time at the end to answer some questions, but we'll definitely make sure to try to add in those questions that I see in the Q&A throughout this discussion. First, I'll start with you, Patrick, and could you take a little moment to introduce yourself while you're answering this question? I know in your background you are a former mayor, and so I'm really interested to hear you talk a little about the perspective of city leaders who are working to pass some of these policies in the package. What's helpful for city leaders who are trying to pass these policies?
Yeah, thank you, Akeem. In a previous life, I was the mayor of Melrose, a city right outside of Boston. But I think once you're mayor, you kind of always have a mayoral mindset. And I think the first thing I wanted to say is just, particularly as we enter the holiday season and after the great report Katrina just gave, just a bunch of gratitude. I would say for mayors and local officials, for health directors, for people on policy teams in cities, this is probably the toughest time to be a mayor in America in history. There is just an intensity to the challenges, both coming from the federal government, relative to tightening budgets at both the federal, state, and local level, and obviously living in a world where social media has you and your family kind of under a microscope. So I know a bunch of our friends and city leaders and folks we work with have joined this meeting, and just want to say thank you. I was lucky to be mayor at another time when it was so much easier. That's one. Two, is that, and I speak from a subset of cities that my team gets to work on, 23 cities where Kaiser Permanente is present. The gift that we have in working with our local officials is that Kaiser has established such strong relationships, both because of the health services they deliver, but also because of their generous, often not talked about philanthropic support for cities and community organizations. So when we start, there's this already existing partnership between the mayor, local officials, and our anchor, one of our anchor funders for the project. So that makes it really easy. And for mayors who have some trust in that relationship, it makes it easier to have real and raw and actionable conversations. And then in each of those communities that we get to work in, we get to partner with our local KP teams who obviously on a day-to-day basis are living and breathing the community life. And that kind of partnership with mayors and chiefs of staff and health directors gets us a big head start. So I feel like we're pretty lucky in that regard. The thing we've come to learn is that I think there are two ways we are find the magic to get stuff done. And the first one is when a mayor designates a point person to work with CityHealth so that there's kind of an anchored relationship where you can be honest and share ideas and share challenges and make sure that our work is nuanced and respectful for all the other things that city government is dealing with. So one thing that I've advised every mayor that I've talked to as part of CityHealth is designate a point person. One, because you're busy, we don't want to bother you, and we want to make sure we're held accountable by somebody in city government to be really thoughtful about the work we do. And then second, I think the most powerful thing from an external place is where we can build coalitions for big policy ideas. So there's nothing more powerful than walking into a city council meeting with dozens of people from community organizations who have worked together to agree on some compromise and have it be a joint venture between the mayor, the city council, and community groups. And if we do any mix of that stuff, goodwill, gratitude, community organizing, and being super thoughtful, we can accomplish almost anything. So that would be my piece of advice.
Thank you for that, Patrick. It is that time of day where there is a glare in my office. So if you see me shifting around, it's trying to avoid the sun. Keenan, I'll come to you. Keenan, you're the incoming CEO at the Alpine Group, and if I can take a point of personal privilege, you are probably the hardest working woman I've ever met, especially in the DC area. And you've been working with cities to lay the groundwork for policy adoption in 2025. One of those areas is complete streets, particularly in Durham, North Carolina, where the city recently passed a $115 million streets and sidewalks bond to advance this initiative. What will it take for Durham to finalize its complete streets policies, and what strategies should be employed to ensure that these projects promote safety, accessibility, and equity for all its residents?
Well, Akeem, thank you so much for that very kind and very warm introduction. I know I'm in good company with a lot of hardworking folks around this table, and I'll echo Patrick's sentiments with starting by gratitude to be able to work on behalf of CityHealth and to advance such good policy. It really enriches my practice. And so thank you to you, Akeem. Thank you to Katrina and the entire CityHealth team. So good to be with y'all today. So we have seen a lot of good progress and momentum in 2025. We're very excited about the progress that's happening in Durham, North Carolina. Thus far, particularly in the complete streets policy, and they hope to be able to meddle in this area next year. So they held a successful workshop bringing together state leaders, and this was through a partnership with Smart Growth America and CityHealth, having conversations that ultimately led to this workshop, bringing together state leaders and stakeholders to make sure that all the important decision makers were on the same page to tackle any unexpected roadblocks that came along the way. We hope the progress in Durham could be an example for what is possible for North Carolina cities and navigate some of the challenges that they face with respect to preemption of our complete streets while also implementing a robust complete streets policy.
Thank you for that, Keenan. Dave, coming to you along those same lines, particularly when it comes to partnerships. CityHealth's model is to partner with cities to provide assistance throughout the policymaking process. Can you talk a little how you've partnered with city leaders to pass strong evidence-based health policies in the Texas cities that you work in?
Yeah, thanks, Akeem, and yeah, glad to be with everybody today. Uh, I'm the Texas director for CityHealth. I'm based in Austin and responsible for promoting the CityHealth policy package in the 9 largest cities in Texas. And when I think of partnerships, our work in San Antonio really comes to mind. We've had a long-standing partnership in San Antonio, Mayor Ron Nirenberg, the health director, Dr. Claude Jacob, Eric Walsh, the city manager. They've really embraced the city health kind of approach. And I think that was really evident this year, not to go back to Complete Streets again, but San Antonio passed a really strong Complete Streets policy back in September. We were first kind of pulled into conversations in San Antonio going all the way back to 2020, just to kind of illustrate sometimes how long policy development can take. They were working on a micromobility active transportation effort and had indicated a desire to update their Complete Streets policy, which was last passed in 2011. Those efforts kind of got sidelined for a little bit for various reasons, but started back up again in 2023. And so we were basically working with a really strong coalition, kind of the type of coalition that Patrick was describing, where we were working shoulder to shoulder with the American Heart Association, AARP, a number of other great groups on the ground. There was a request for Smart Growth America to come in and offer technical assistance. We participated in a number of community meetings, both virtually and on the ground, and participated in stakeholder groups. And so we were really excited to see that pass this September. It's a really strong policy. They were able to earn a gold medal in 2024, and I think a great example of what a really strong policy with a city, partnership with a city can look like.
Thank you for that, Dave. I want to stick with you for a second and talk about green space.
Sure.
I've seen green space really tick up this year, and I know that it had a big year in Texas with Austin, Dallas, and Fort Worth all earning new gold medals in this policy, and San Antonio earning a gold for the third consecutive year. Why has green space been a policy focus in Texas, and what advice would you give similar cities who are considering green space?
Yeah, great question. I think there's a couple of things at play. I think there's certainly a lot of growth in Texas, and so I think city leaders are acknowledging that it's important to preserve open space and green space with a lot of development going on. I think if any of you all have been to Texas in the summer, the urban heat island effect is real. It's something I experience here in Austin, and I know a lot of Texas cities are looking at tree canopy policies to help mitigate that urban heat island effect. And so I know that's been a priority for a number of cities. Both Fort Worth Mayor Matty Parker and Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson have made parks and open space and green space a top priority of their administrations. I think we saw this year Fort Worth passed a really strong urban forest master plan this summer that has really strong tree canopy goals and prioritizes tree canopy in underserved and underrepresented areas. And Dallas passed a $345 million parks bond this year as well, which I think helped them with the funding component of the city health criteria. And so they were able to earn gold in green space as well. So I'm really excited to kind of see other cities. Hearing a lot of conversations around green space in Texas, and hopeful other cities will be inspired by some of the work that's going on in Dallas and Fort Worth.
Thank you, Dave. I know a lot of cities have asked me about some green space work as well, and so I look forward to picking your brain throughout next year and some of the lessons you've learned there. Patrick, a thing that I often hear, particularly at some of the conferences, National League of Cities being one of them, I hear from some of the smaller cities that don't make up the 75 largest cities. They're very interested in our policy package, and they're thinking about working with some of their neighbor cities, some of the exurbs and the suburbs of of our larger cities. Um, how, given that you work with many cities that are clustered in dense urban areas, including the Bay Area and Southern California, are cities collaborating in a regional level to address some shared challenges? And what advice would you give those cities considering policies where a regional approach could effectively address a public health issue?
Yeah, I think we see it across all the issues, but I think certainly issues like tobacco and transportation, you have a lot of regional working groups. I think of in Denver, where they have a coalition that covers, I think, 9 counties and 49 cities. Certainly, Los Angeles is such an important city to this project and to Kaiser Permanente and the CityHealth program, and just watching how different issues, quite frankly, can't be resolved if both the anchor larger city and the smaller cities are talking to each other all the time. I think we're finding that out, and those challenges are becoming more real. I kid sometimes about this, which is we love when people are collaborating and sharing best practices. And then we also like to create some competition between cities. As a former mayor, I always wanted to beat my neighboring city, whether they were bigger and smaller than me. So I think if we can create this really fun energy where we know that some issues simply can't be resolved, that just like if you take one step over into the next city, if we're not working together, we can't help people and better their lives. So that's a great lesson to be learned too. We have to sometimes compete with each other to call each other to a higher goal, which I think is really great. And then the blessing of different communities choosing to maybe embrace different policies at different times is that they become incubators for experimentation and lessons learned. So some communities don't have to make the same mistake, or some communities learned you got to think about implementation before you even pass the legislation, or sometimes a pilot program is better than a permanent one to start, so you get it right before you kind of codify it. So I think we're seeing tons of examples of that all across the country in city health cities. And CityHealth was so ambitious to grow to 75 cities, but its real impact is and continues to be actually expanding beyond that to creating role model policies and partners that expand it outside of even the 75 cities. So bravo.
I do want to remind people you can always drop in questions in the Q&A, and we'll work them through into the conversation here. But Patrick, that does resonate with me. I've heard a number of cities, some of the first questions that they ask is, well, what did this city get, or what did that city get? And that level of competition is a real motivating factor. The other thing that I'll say on that piece is it's amazing what cities consider their peer cities, and it's not necessarily their neighbor city. In meeting with some cities, they've asked about cities all the way on the other side of the country that they consider their peer or cluster or competition city. And so that's always made me laugh. Keenan, I want to talk to you about housing and housing affordability. That's an issue that I have constantly seen in the cities that I work in, and I know it's a top priority for many local leaders. All of North Carolina cities received a bronze medal in affordable housing trusts. Do you anticipate some further movement in housing policy in 2025? And could cities and states see action in healthy rental housing or legal support for renters as well?
Yeah, absolutely. The housing issue continues to be one that grabs headlines for cities across the country. And I definitely think it will continue to be an issue in North Carolina, where we can see a lot of opportunity and movement for our policies. So we expect the local headlines to continue to get the attention of our mayors and local leaders. And we've seen state activists demand changes in those areas. One group I think about is the group in Greensboro who formed a coalition to expand rental assistance and legal services for people facing eviction. So that's a good example of how a kind of groundswell can sort of help our cause for momentum and better policy. North Carolina cities have demonstrated an interest in the topic on working through their work on affordable housing trusts. And we hope that we can see new reforms in the areas of housing, healthy rental housing and legal support for renters. But I think, Akeem, to your point, that there's a lot of opportunity. Sadly, there's a lot of opportunity there, but something that mayors, when I'm going to conferences, mayors are talking to other mayors about how to fix these issues. They're very hard and complex and entrenched. But particularly in North Carolina, I think we can see some action in 2025.
So I want to switch things up a little, and I know this is City Health, but oftentimes we find some issues that had a state level wrinkle into it. And so one of the questions that I want to ask, particularly for you, Dave, is around these state level challenges. We saw some ballot initiatives in several of our policy areas in 2024. Some of these, like the earned sick leave in both Missouri and Nebraska, were brought as referendum in part to overcome state preemption challenges. And you know this well in Texas, where last year the legislature passed a sweeping local preemption bill that came into conflict with some of the issues that mayors were dealing with. What challenges do cities face when navigating state level preemption of local health policies, and how are Texas cities addressing these hurdles?
Yeah, thanks, Akeem. I'd say we saw this as a specific example with the first policy package around earned sick leave. And so, yeah, 3 Texas cities had passed earned sick leave policies. Austin, Dallas, and San Antonio had earned gold medals. Those ordinances got challenged in the courts and are effectively preempted in Texas. And then you mentioned the bill that passed last session in 2023. Some call it, a super preemption bill, House Bill 2127. Basically takes several areas of the code out of play for cities, and basically says cities could not pass ordinances in those areas, and then creates opportunity for city residents to file legal challenges if they feel like they've been impacted by a city ordinance in those areas of the code. And so, I'd say as far as the impact here in Texas on kind of the city health policy package, it's probably too early to say. There was a legal challenge the city of Houston filed against this bill. A couple other cities joined that suit. They got a favorable court ruling early on, and then the Attorney General appealed, so it's kind of tied up in that process. Technically, the bill is, or the new law rather, is active. It went into effect on September 1st, 2023. So, to my knowledge, no city resident has filed a suit under that. But, I think as far as how this will impact the city health package moving forward is still too early to say. We're certainly have our eyes on the 2025 legislative session and are kind of monitoring any other preemption efforts in that regard. But I haven't seen cities thus far, shy away from, city health policies in my conversations with them as a result of the preemption efforts.
Thank you for that. I do want to take this opportunity to shout out one of our partners, and I believe a couple of the members of this organization are in attendance on this. So if they want to share their story, they can definitely add it to the chat. But one of our partners when it comes to smoke-free indoor air is ANR, the American for Non-Smokers' Rights. And they've worked in Tennessee with local musicians to kind of address a state preemption bill. They had local musicians advocate around the importance of smoke-free bars and restaurants in Tennessee. And so they worked with the state legislator to make updates to the Tennessee smoke-free bill. Once that was done, they went back to Nashville to update the Nashville code to go a little further and ban smoking in many other bars and restaurants that are there that the musicians perform in. I think I always share that story when I talk to mayors about preemption challenges, where local advocates are able to take a localized approach, address the state issue, and then come back to the local level to make updates there. We've got a couple of questions in the chat around some of the opportunities and partnerships that we have, especially when it comes to U.S. Conference of Mayors, African American Mayors Association. All of you have gone to these conferences with me. So, Patrick, you were a member of these conferences before. So I'd love to hear from each of you around your experience at these conferences, the reception that mayors receive when they hear about CityHealth. So we can start with you, Patrick, and if you want to share your experience both as a mayor and on this side.
It's much more fun being there as a non-mayor than a mayor. Less scrutiny, so I enjoy that. When you asked the question, I was reminded of one of my very first meetings at the De Beaumont Foundation with Brian Castrucci and Shelley Hearn, right? Two of the people of spirit behind the creation of this whole program. And in talking about this whole project and the potential for CityHealth, we talked about like success would be some version of having big, serious policy ambition, but a big dose of humility combined with it. And I've learned that a lot over the years of this work. And when I think about that with mayors, is that the ambition, right, is that for all of our 75 cities and otherwise, that we meet mayors where they are and where their priorities are and where their constituents are. And then we lift up the things that they really want to focus on because they know better than us what really matters and what will make people's lives better each day. And I have found at these conferences, giving mayors a moment to be away from the day-to-day, which is, they can't walk down the street without being asked 17 questions or being questioned about something. That it's a safe place to have a real conversation, sometimes over a beverage or two. And you hear the real story, the real challenge, the real opportunity. And so I think those are really important places. The second thing that CityHealth has done so well at is celebrating mayors when they're at these national conferences. And I like it for two reasons. One, we love to really acknowledge great public leadership, both by mayors and their teams. We also like when some mayors, maybe who aren't so engaged with us, see that other mayors are getting credit for doing really amazing things and they're not. And I've had mayors at these conferences come up and say, why wasn't I on that list? Why wasn't I on that stage? And so we love it as a place to show gratitude and also to kind of shake up some relationships so we can keep growing the momentum.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in here too. I agree with Patrick. I think these conferences present great opportunities for collaboration and sharing best practices. I love attending the panels and the sessions. I always learn something and always have opportunities to engage with elected officials in settings that away from City Hall, as Patrick was saying, and it's easier to have conversations. We had a great presentation at the Community Leaders of America conference back a few months ago in Oklahoma City. They're a great partner of ours, and we're able to present about green space. And so did a co-presentation with Trust for Public Land. Got a lot of great questions and engagement around some of the work that we're seeing, best practices in cities. And so, that kind of shines as a great example for me of, a conference that we're able to have some good conversations that can hopefully lead to some policy opportunities.
Keenan, you've attended some of the U.S. Conference of Mayors leadership meetings. Do you want to share what your experience at those meetings are like?
Yeah, first I need to say, like, Akeem has mastered the art of the conference. So if anybody wants some one-on-one time with Akeem, I've never seen anybody working better than him. But I did take down some pointers for folks that are thinking about this. And, Mayor, I hope this drives with your past experience. All right, so the bars, work the bar. The panels happen and then the conversations happen, but you can catch everybody. Yeah, we talk about mayors being away from their scenes. Bars are very important, and you don't have to be a big drinker. But it is where everybody's going to end up eventually. The competition that you mentioned, Patrick, is so important. I think the conferences create that opportunity for visibility. So, Dave, you talked about the green space conversation. CityHealth had a wonderful conversation with the head of the health chair, Mayor LeVar Stoney, and that created a lot of interest around CityHealth. People were coming to Katrina afterwards, asking questions, figuring out how they can get involved. So I think that's great. And we also had a reception, just people saying the name and raising the profile of the organization And then that great screen, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to experience it, but CityHealth has a screen where it just has like, who are the 75 cities? If the mayors don't see themselves on those cities, they're first asking why. And then they want to know about the medals. So I mean, that's the last thing I'll say, come prepared. One of the things that have enriched these conferences is knowing who's going to be there and knowing exactly where they stand and just being ready to engage them about their specific cities. Mayors, once they realize where they're meddling or not meddling, they really want to understand how they can close that gap. So the better informed you are, the more you can make that a very rich experience. And then lastly, just don't ignore the possibility of a side meeting. So if you know who's going already, if you can get in touch with them or their staff and grab that 10 or 15 minutes that you can't get otherwise, I think it's a further value add for you.
And Keem, I want to offer one other reflection about, which is like the inverse of your question, which is like there's this national model and national attention in these conferences, but one of the other things we learned, which is part of the humility side of the ambition, is that for different mayors in different cities, they might get to the endpoint in very, very, very different ways, right? And so I think of Denver today, and if there's folks on here, we're rooting for you. 2 years ago, we thought we had a flavored tobacco ban, and it hit a wall at the last minute. And now this huge coalition is ready, just came out of committee last week, goes to the full council next week, and we expect a new mayor to sign it. Like that's one pathway. And San Diego, Mayor Gloria, who's been a champion for CityHealth, announced a big climate action plan, which was big and broad. And part of all of the work that went into that over a couple of years led to a gold medal in green space, very different than other communities who looked at it in one kind of focused way. And so like in each of these cities, different folks get there in different ways. And sometimes it's also different sequencing. In Long Beach, it's a year and a half of eco-friendly purchasing meetings across all of city government. The mayor said, want to get it done, designated a policy person, and we're close. So like all of this is so nuanced and so customized to what works for different mayors. And I think at CityHealth, honoring and respecting the fact that it's super local and has to be super nuanced is a gift to the communities and our partners.
That totally resonates with me. I've sat in on a number of city manager updates in the city of Phoenix, where we are looking at 4 different policies in the CityHealth policy package, and it's been a 2-year process, but I'm looking forward to seeing them get an overall medal next year. So we're on video saying that, so you can hold me to that this time next year. Keenan, I want to come to you. Taking a step forward, looking forward with this question, and it's also in the chat. This is one that I had on my list. We've got a new administration coming in, and I've gotten a lot of text messages from mayors and city leaders wondering the impact of that new administration is going to have on some of the policies in our package, and their ability to enact these. Are you going to see, given the work that you do federally, so you have that lens as well, do you anticipate a bigger push to get these policies done locally, or is there going to be federal partnerships around these things, or are we going to expect cities to have to step into more of a leadership role?
I think it's the latter. I think it's very Donald Trump is good for headlines, good for the news. We are all engaged and riveted, right, with what all the things we're seeing and reading, because there's a level of unpredictability about it all. But when you think about the work that we're doing, the action will be in the cities. Mayors will still be mayors; they'll be governing, and some of the pots. I know that our fear, and maybe some of the mayor's fears are these wonderful pots of money that were cash infusions to the state through the American Rescue Plan or the IIJA or CHIPS that allowed mayors to do things that have been long-standing on the list. Donald Trump is a smart cookie when it comes to this. If there are pots of money that are particularly important, I don't think that he'll be kind of slower about pulling them back, because who's trying to make enemies? when you think about the funding of cities and the city's ability to do its work, those are bipartisan issues, and no one wants to, take any opportunity for economic development and growth out of their particular city. I do think this is where mayors become particularly important. Even though we see unified government in Washington, the spectrum is broad in the Republican Party. And so it will be hard to govern. But I think that in the cities, you've got just as little, even more opportunity. If a lot of clients that I'm meeting with, they're asking me like, who do you know in the states? And who do you and what mayors do you know? Because they are looking for real action, and that's where CityHealth shines. And I do, I just think we can't get too distracted by the headlines. Be vigilant. Absolutely. And I think we're all going to be just watching for the president and this Congress's next move. But when it comes to the action and what we've seen to be able to be possible, I do think that there remains a great deal of hope and possibility for us to continue to push the policies that are closest to us.
I think that's a good segue to talk about 2025, and I want to hear from everyone on this. As we think about looking forward into next year, what are some of the emerging health policy trends that may be coming related to the policy package? And how can public health advocates proactively support the adoption of city health policies in the coming year? And we'll start with you, Dave.
Thanks, Akeem. And yeah, this isn't a 2025 policy, but I just want to give a shout out to the city of Dallas. Yesterday, the city council strengthened their smoke-free indoor air ordinance and added vaping. So, that didn't make it in time for the 2024 report, but I know that'll be evaluated and assessed next year. So, just wanted to give them a shout out. But as far as 2025, I think I'm seeing a lot of activity on the procurement purchasing side. And so I know that the city of Austin and the city of Dallas both are working on sustainable purchasing policies, which is aligned with our eco-friendly purchasing policy. And so eager to kind of see where those go. I know Austin and Travis County just passed a food plan that called for values-based purchasing around food, which is really aligned with our healthy food purchasing policy. So seeing a lot of activity in that area, as well as green space and complete streets. So I would just, as far as how folks can stay involved and engaged, I would just say to, participate in the process. I think the city health policies that I've seen advance and be successful are when they have those strong community coalitions that we talked about. And so just encourage folks to stay engaged, stay involved, and be part of the process.
Patrick?
Yeah, I think in every conversation I've had with mayors over the last year, housing affordability comes up almost automatically. I think we recognize at CityHealth we have a really robust metal policy, but for each city, some of the solutions are different that will work for them. But it feels like everyone is trying to get there, given some of the inflationary and other issues that have impacted families locally. I mean, I'm really hopeful that we're in the flavored tobacco ban space. It feels like we're at those early stages of the Tobacco 21 effort, where you felt tons of momentum and where cities, quite frankly, leapfrog the federal government, show that it can be done, and then the federal government eventually embraces the policy. So just now that some of the regulatory roadblocks are slowly being pulled away, knowing that we can kind of take more aggressive action there. And I think the last one to think about is, because of some of the COVID and pandemic funding that was an injection into some cities where they were able to start programs or start pilot programs. One of the things to really watch for is, are cities able to take some of the real success stories and make those permanent with local funding or local sources of funding? That will be both a challenge and an opportunity at the same time.
Keenan, anything else you want to add?
I think Patrick hit it.
Okay. I agree. I've been hearing a lot of questions about housing as well. Housing affordability continues to be a big issue, particularly in cities. I mean, I think a lot of cities are seeing the impact of that or the lack of a housing supply, affordable housing supply, even in other areas. And so I've had a lot of conversations around that. Um, I don't have any other questions, so I guess we can give people a few minutes back. But what I would like to hear is if you have any last thoughts or comments or a call to action for local advocates or mayors or city elected officials. Um, I'd love to hear your last pitch on why cities should work with City Health. Dave?
Thanks, Akeem. Yeah, I'll just say, I've used to work at the federal level on Capitol Hill, have kind of worked on advocacy efforts at the state level here at the Capitol, but I've just really enjoyed and I'm grateful for my work with City Health. I've really appreciate the innovation and that happens at the city level, and I find that city elected officials are approachable and really in this work for the right reasons, and that's refreshing to me and keeps me energized. And so I'm excited to see what we can accomplish in 2025.
Keenan?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I was thinking about what we bring to the cities. I know, Akeem, it's so refreshing, and for you and Katrina and so many of the City Health team that you all have actually worked in city government, and I think that just provides such a resource to cities. When we're doing meetings, people can't believe that we're bringing all of these resources for free, especially the technical assistance. Well, these are the policies that mayors want to do. They want to be effective. Their staff want to be effective, and they can't believe that we would come to them with recommendations, know-how, and manpower. So I just think we, need to continue to drive home the value that we bring because people get it, and don't be distracted, and continue to do the good work of City Health.
Patrick?
Sure. I'll close with a reflection on the past and something I'm excited about on the future. I think it was a big leap of faith and a lot of innovation for de Beaumont to believe that this program could really make a difference in people's lives. And then a huge commitment by Kaiser Permanente to be a big partner for all these years and really believe in it, and believing it in communities that they served already. Like that's just a really fundamentally generous and big deal. And yet all of these headwinds, that feel so tough, right? Complex partisan political landscape, tough economic situation, families struggling in some communities, city government trying to figure out how to do 20 things at the same time to scale nonstop, which feels just like somehow through all of that, there is progress, there's more medals, there's hope, there's really courageous leadership. I'm particularly pumped that we have more female mayors, more mayors of color, a new generation of mayors who aren't playing by the old rules and want to get stuff done. In fact, they spent years in their communities wanting to make a difference, and now they're leading those communities. So I think we go into 2025 with just great hope, great energy, and grateful that we get to bring a dose of technical support and expertise to realize some of those great goals.
Thank you for that. One of the reasons I'm excited about this work, I've long been a believer in the power of local government. I think mayors and city council members sit at the center of work that's being done, and that's where you have the biggest impact on communities. In part because you are closest to your community, and so I look forward to addressing some of the challenges ahead and working with mayors to fill any leadership void that may pop up. I'm particularly excited about the cities that have reached out, asking about housing, and asking about green space work. I anticipate a lot more of that work moving into the next year. I do want to take the time to thank our three panelists, Dave, Keenan, and Patrick. Learning and working with you guys and learning from you guys over the past couple of years has been a great professional experience of mine. And there's no way we can get to this point without the partnerships that we have with you guys. Along those same lines, There's no way we can get this work done without our partners, our technical assistant partners. So I do want to take the time to thank them as well. We can go ahead and close out. Here we go. There we go. For those of you guys who are looking to work with City Health, you can follow us on social media. We are now even on Blue Sky. I believe that profile has been up this week or early last week. So you can follow us on Blue Sky, LinkedIn, Facebook. We are also on Reddit, and you can continue to follow us on formerly known as Twitter. Please join us. Check out the website. You can look in your city and see where your city stands when it comes to this report that came out. And you can see the work that needs to be done in your city. And you can reach out to us on how to get that work done. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you have a great day, rest of your day. Thank you.